Welcome back to the second episode and the main episode when it comes to the content that we're going to be giving out in this fantastic podcast called Once You're In, You're In, featuring Reece, Pearson and Finn Kelly Coach. In this, we're going to be going through pretty much a back to gym kind of walkthrough. So it's going to be programming 101, going through a few different sessions that we're going to be going through. It's probably going to be a bit of a mixture of your general informative stuff and then just a bit of just chatting shit in between, to be fair. There's not really going to be too much when it comes to
the whole of the last episode was.
Yeah, pretty much. So if you've listened to the first episode, there's going to be more in this. That's why it's the second episode. So what we'll do is we'll start off. I'm not too sure if we're going to be showing screens or anything, but we'll probably just be going through a general overview of where we're going to be training and then what our sessions are. Due to a few niggles that are sustained by pretty much both of us, there's going to be a fair amount of like specificity when it comes to the sessions and what we're actually trying to achieve out those sessions. And it might give you, if you're stuck for ideas, you might be going back to the gyms when they reopen, you might not have a plan in place. You definitely could maybe take some inspiration or not. You know, no one's really forcing you, but we'll go from there. So I'll pass it over to Finn and we'll get cracking.
I don't think we will share the screen just because, like you said, not everyone's going to be watching on YouTube. At some point, we will do episodes where we share the screen and obviously people who listen on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts will just have to get used to it, grin and bear it, and either put YouTube on in the car or just go home and watch on YouTube. So I don't think we'll do it for this episode unless we feel like we need to. But yeah, so it'll basically just be an episode where we chat about programming. And like you said, I think it'll be quite a good insight because these are like the chats that we have when we're training. That, like I was saying in the first episode, the kind of reason why I wanted to start the podcast is because of these kind of conversations, and people often ask like, oh, you know, why are you doing that, and what's the reason behind that? And you know, like we've said before, when it comes to YouTube, we've wanted to make content which is more just natural, yeah. Unlike you, like I said in the last one.
Yeah, no. I think the natural progression, me and Finn have spoke about this before, would be to have like a session where it's not really anything fancy, but it's just the basics and the little words in between, because
have like little mics on, like just like hear our conversations throughout the session, and obviously
and it wouldn't be a forced kind of we're doing this because of this. It would just be the natural. We get off a machine and we say, oh, that feels good. Have we thought about doing that? Or in Finn's words, that's fucked. What my back's fucked or something. Or with me, it's my knee. You know, just it'll be complaining, and then it'll be a bit of insightfulness. When it comes to
inappropriate humour that we can't do on the podcast, having to bite our tongue for
that will definitely. Yeah, definitely. A few edits might have to be made.
To get the podcast banned.
So I think we'd start off. We'll start off and we'll say, right, me and Finn will be training at 4 times per week frequency. I think it's quite interesting because when we first started training with each other, and this isn't going to go on too much of a tangent, but it was about, 2.5 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. It was about 2 and a bit years ago anyway. And we were training. It's funny because every year we seem to drop a session. So it was 6 times when we first started training. It was a push, pull legs. Yeah, it was push, pull legs.
7 because we'd both end up doing arms separately on Sunday, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
So we'd do push, pull legs, arms, and then we'd be back to
and it was a sense where everything had 7 assisted reps. We were going for load. We had no right in going for. I think if I'm not mistaken, we both got 1 rep max hack squats, and we assisted for a further 4 or 5 reps. And it was interesting because we were speaking about this the other day, and it's almost set ourselves not a foundation to train off because we train like absolute weapons, but it almost gave us a platform where we could go, right, well, this is the training intensity required, and then we just need to be a little bit more accurate. I'm still waiting on the accuracy. That hasn't happened for me, but hey ho, well, I'll take the benefits in certain aspects. So we trained it 6 times per week. Then we went to 5 last year. We ran a pull, push, lower, upper, lower for pretty much the entirety of the first lockdown, Finn's prep, and then post prep, it was a sense where we went into the second lockdown. So was it the November lockdown? And we transitioned into some level of 4 times per week split. We originally had a leg pull session Monday, an upper session on Wednesday. Or was it a push and arm session Wednesday? Or was it an upper session Wednesday?
No, it was upper. We had like just a lower upper split, didn't we, at first?
Yeah, and we pretty much came to the conclusion, just from a few, like we needed to make a few alterations, more specifically for Finn due to a few injuries that we picked up through trying to dumbbell press twice per week after not doing any free weight movements for about 6 months. So he clearly left AJ, lost his head, tried to put in 2 presses with free weights, just broke himself down.
Not completely out.
Yeah. Yeah, and he didn't know how to program, so I took the reins, started coaching him myself, and now his pressing's pretty much as good as ever. So in the last couple of months, we've gone to 4 time per week frequency. We're still at 4 time per week frequency, pretty much, and we're just rotating between. I'm currently doing a very, very poor pull session twice per week with hams and quads, in the form of a leg extension and ham curl, and then on my push sessions, it's just push and arms. So it's literally 2 rotations of push and arms, and then 2 rotations of very, very mediocre leg pull sessions. And Finn will go into what he's doing now.
Well, cheers for that.
Yeah, go for it, mate. You might want to. You might want to go into what you're doing now.
You might want to go into it.
You might want to, mate.
Yeah. So basically, we train Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, don't we? So Monday for me is legs. For Reece is basically leg pull, but it's not. It's pull because of his knee. Wednesday is push and arms. For me, it's like a push dominant upper day. So I have 1 back movement on that day, which is actually working really well at the minute. Then on the Thursday, it's again legs for me, and pull for Reece, or leg pull, but again it's just minimal leg work. And then the Saturday is the other upper session. So for me, it's like a pull dominant upper day, and for you, it's just a normal upper, isn't it?
Yeah, on Saturday. Yeah, normal upper. So 2 presses, 2 pulls, and then the regular ISOs to finish, really.
Yeah. So in terms of the gyms that we're going to train at, so prior to this lockdown, we trained at Ultraflex, didn't we? And then before that, we were training in
Warehouse, Evo.
Yeah,
so
it was 3, wasn't it? So
Warehouse, so it was Warehouse for lower.
Then Evo and Ultraflex.
Yeah.
So now it's going to be Ultraflex on a Monday for legs or leg pull for you. Wednesday and Thursday both at Warehouse, and then Saturday at Ultimate Fitness in Birmingham, because you want to try that out, don't you, and see the kit in there. I've trained there, but not since they've got a lot of the new kit.
Yeah, so I think what we should say is, firstly, you might want to take what we're training at with a pinch of salt, because what we have of movements that we've selected these gyms through a very rigorous 15-minute pre-session yesterday, trying to decide what gyms to train out of. So it's quite on the fly. I think that could potentially be a few alterations that we made, but like I said, take it with a pinch of salt, because we're lucky in the sense of we can train at multiple different gyms. The gyms that we're training out of, we can almost choose for each individual session, where if you're training out of a leisure center, you're going to be like, oh, they're having the extreme row, let me put in the matrix 1-arm row. It's going to be quite a poor comparison. So what we'll try and do is we'll go through what we're going to do, and then we could try and leave substitutions if
we'll
so.
Talk about movement patterns, because that's basically all it is. It's just that we may have access to more advanced machines that hit those movement patterns. So it's not like I was saying to you yesterday, we've learned throughout these lockdowns that you really don't need the world's best equipment to make progress. Like, we've had clients that have literally got 1 dumbbell and a band, even if that, or a set of bands and a pull-up bar, and they've still been able to make progress during that time just by being consistent. You know, even if you do minimal work for what it's been, however many months you've been in lockdown, and eat well, like, you're still going to make good progress. Unless you're like a top-level bodybuilder, obviously you're not going to grow. But for the average person, you're going to have made some progress even in the lockdown. So I think that's one thing I learned a lot, in the lockdowns, is that you don't need the world's best equipment. Although saying that, we are still going to travel to 4 different gyms to train. It's a bit counterintuitive.
And you also have to understand with what Finn said about being average, and then he says that he's grown a lot, kind of says a fair bit about Finn, but we'll carry on. We'll move on.
A lot, mate.
Right, so if we go into the pull session, or I say pull, it's legs for you, lower on Monday. Now, I will say, actually, prior to getting into this, the Thursday session, once my knee is up and running, I'd imagine maybe a further week or two, and with access to different bits of kit, I probably will be able to get away with potentially maybe a few leg compounds. So Warehouse, they're not fantastic when it comes to lower kit, but we'll definitely make a few alterations. However, we're skipping ahead, so we'll go through the Monday session. So if we're training Ultraflex Rotherham, Finn, do you want to run through your standard thought processes, and we'll kind of just go between exercise 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah, cool, man. So currently, obviously, legs, we're starting off with a prone ham curl, aren't we? I'd like to change that to a seated ham, just because we've not had the availability to do a seated ham, obviously, throughout the lockdown. So I'd like to, we'll go for a seated hamstring there. General 2 sets, probably use the prime pin-loaded seated ham, and we can load the shortened range on the first set, spend some time there, and then the second set, we could probably just load the mid-range and maybe spend half a second each end of the rep.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I think maybe an adductor prior, just for me. I think an adductor prior potentially. We've forgot completely about an adductor.
We have forgot. Yeah. The amount of programs I've done and been like, oh, that needs an adductor, because I've forgotten that it's a thing.
Well, like I said to you, I did a session and did a session plan, didn't even put a single hip hinge in. I was like, oh, this is fine, because I haven't been performing one myself.
We can't do one at the minute. We forget that anyone else can.
Yeah, right, so an adductor in first. It'll be the strength. Is it the strength shop? I always get it mixed up. Gym shop. Yeah, gym shop, adductor. Then it'll be the prime seated ham. The issue is that they have a live fitness seated ham, if I'm not mistaken, but the load is horrendously light. Like, we've got a gym pin, Reece Fit 10. Mate, let me say my Reece Fit 10, Reece Fit 10 for a gym pin. We've got a gym pin on that with like 20 kilos, and it just feels. We've used one at Warehouse, and all the load on a live fitness one, they just feel slightly inaccurate.
I found that the live fitness one at Ultraflex wasn't as good as the one at Warehouse either. Yeah. I didn't think it sat as well. I thought the pad was slightly tilted to one side. It didn't feel as good, and then we did the prime, and it felt really good. We'll do that. And then, go on.
Oh, I was going to say, you mentioned the emphasis on the shorten to begin set 1, and then set 2 probably mid to short, I'd imagine.
Yeah, obviously we've been trying to do that sort of in our own way at home, just with spending more time in the shortened range, or we've loaded the leg extension slightly differently, putting the plates at the top for a bit more drop off and things like that, just to manipulate the resistance profile, and basically, when we're as fresh as possible at the start of the session, try and get more out of the shortened range. And that's why we like to do an adductor, a seated ham, a leg extension, all prior to the compounds, not just in terms of getting the joints warm, which is one of the main benefits, but to actually get the most out of those 3 areas, the adductor, the hamstrings, and the quads. Get the most of those in their shortened range when we're freshest, rather than putting them at the end. So I know we went through a period where we added them a bit at the end, but it just felt like it was too much volume, didn't it? Like having like some time in the shortened range at the start of the session, then spending some time in the lengthened range at the end. It was just too much volume. And
I think from a psychological perspective, like trying to get yourself psyched up again to go in on a leg extension after you've done your compounds, after you've already done the same leg extension, it just didn't really, I'm not saying it didn't make sense, it kind of did, but it just didn't really feel like we were going onto it, and we could tell that we weren't fully applying ourselves.
It makes sense when you think, oh, well, we'll spend longer in the lengthened range. And you think, yeah, that makes sense. But still, like, a leg extension isn't heavy in the lengthened range. Even if you load it in the beginning range on like the prime one, it's still, your focus is in the shortened position. It's the only movement where we can properly load the quad in its shortened range. So we might as well make the most of it when it's, when they're fresh at the beginning of the session. So adductor, prime seated ham. Are you happy to do the prime leg extension or not? Are you scared?
No, it ruined me. It ruined me. I'm 4 months on. I will see that machine again and I'll get PTSD. We loaded the lengthened, and it was the reason why my patella pretty much went ping. Unfortunately, I didn't get a video of it, because I could have said, oh, I got a video of my patella tendon just snapping off. But in reality, I just decided, I was like, Yeah, you got the video. That's what that's what I should have said. But no. So I think it will be the prime leg extension. And it depends if we're going to do the pin loaded or the plate loaded. It was the pin loaded, the one that ruined me.
Yeah.
I don't really have too much of a variance. I don't have enough time spent on either of them. I've only probably completed maybe 4 to 6 working sets on each. So I think it could be something where we trial it on a few warms, say, right, this feels all right. And at the same time, like me and Finn are not that big at Ultraflex Rotherham. So if anyone else is on it, we'll probably just say, yeah, you can have it, lads. We don't want
it. No, I think the reason that your leg, like your shin, it was more so at the top of your shin, wasn't it? I think the reason that was like obviously when it almost like went, let's say, or the start of it occurring, was because of going into too much of a lengthened range, because it goes really far back, doesn't it? The foot pad. And like for me, that's absolutely sound, but for you, it seems to ruin your knees. So we could just use that and just not for you, just bring it forward slightly.
Yeah, no, I think that would be the plan. That would be the plan. And then we go into the compounds. So
you're not obviously not able to at the minute.
now this is where I tap out. I say, "See you later, guys." I'm going to leave the call, and I'm probably going to cry as we go through the compounds. But I'm going to pretend, because ideally I would like to be into this session. I'd want to say within a month or two. The plan of action for me will be to get on some leg compound like movement on the Thursday session, probably a few weeks from now. Like as mentioned, maybe 2 to 3 weeks is an absolute maximum. Where with this session, maybe mid to back end of May, around there. Depressing. So I'll just carry on. I'll let Finn talk his way through this.
So in terms of compounds, I think then are they getting a Cybex hack?
I think they mentioned they were going to get one.
Well, I'll do the Cybex hack if they have it. If not, like for now, I'll probably just go on the Atlantis. So that will be the first compound, and I'll probably just keep that as one set, which I've been doing. And then I'll do 2 sets on a leg press variation, which I'll probably do the hammer strength leg press because obviously of what we're going to do on the other leg down at warehouse. So that'll be the 2 primary compounds. So Atlantis hack, like I say, likely 1 set. Then hammer strength leg press likely will be 2 sets. In terms of the isolations at the start of the session, probably 2 sets on all, I'd say. 2 sets adductor, maybe 1. 2 sets on the leg, on the ham curl and leg extension.
Yeah, I think we'll probably be going in on 1 on any of the more, like, let's say, novel movement, should we say. Yeah, so the patterns that we haven't really, for the first week, first rotation, we haven't done any adductor work at all. We could have done a cuffed cable adductor, but if I'm honest, I'd rather just lose my adductors than do that. So we haven't done any of that. So for adductors, it will probably just be 1 working set. And then for leg extension, ham curl, it depends. If they feel really, really good and we do 1 set and we go, yeah, that's spot on, we'll probably just leave it at 1 set. But it will depend. We've had a ham curl variant in through the Body Max, Body Power end of body power bench, and we've also had a leg extension. And talking about strength profiles and how to load a resistance profile, we've been loading the top pin perfectly well. We've now had a banded movement in. So I mean, our training, we pretty much created a prime bit of kit. It's just in my backyard, which is fantastic.
Simple, wasn't it? No, that's something to know, like just for people obviously who are going back into the gym. Like for us, we've been doing, like, for example, why would we go into a deload or a devolume week when we've been doing like a lot of the movements anyway? So just because I've not done, let's say, a flat bench in the gym, I've still been doing it in a shed. So for us, like what we're going to do when it comes to the devolume is just going to be exercises like Reece said, novel stimulus exercises, ones that we've not done for a while, movement patterns that we haven't been able to replicate, basically. I think for people who have been training like just with bands or with minimal kit, for my clients, for example, who haven't been able to train well, I've got them on a full devolume week. So every exercise generally will either be 1 set, or I've just said make sure that you don't take any 50-50 reps and don't do any intensifiers. So I think that's something to note for people who are obviously going into the gym and not sure how hard to train or whether to leave some in the tank or go all out or what. What I would say is, think about how your training's been going. If you've been able to train at maximum sort of capacity, then just go in and be aware of the newer movements that you've not been able to do. If you've been training at a really low level, then take it easy and ease yourself in. Otherwise, you'll bury yourself within the first few sessions.
Yeah, completely agree. And then if we're going in, so did you finish off with your session? It's pretty much you got
So
through the
yeah, and then
compounds. You said you go through the 2 compounds.
I'll do a single leg variant after that. I'll probably do, either a dumbbell Bulgarian, or a dumbbell walking lunge. I'll probably do a Bulgarian split squat. Because again, something like I said, something that I've realised during these lockdowns is that I want to do more free weight movements. Again, it is the movement pattern. I don't need to be like, oh, I need to get on this machine and do a single leg press or whatever it may be. I think, I just need to get stronger at the given movement patterns regardless of how I'm performing it. So I'll do a dumbbell Bulgarian with the focus on more so sort of my quad sweep or vastus lateralis, because that's my like weaker area of my quads. And I've not neglected it, but I'd say I've neglected single leg work in the past, and I do think that can help in terms of bringing up that quad sweep. So that'll be the focus of that, and then it'll literally be after that calves, abs, bit of arms. You do arms
definitely.
session.
Yeah, I do arms on that session. Will you be doing, I think you skimmed over on the Bulgarian, will you be doing an intensifier, rest pause to finish, or a drop set or whatever?
I'll do the drop set. I've programmed that for a few people. I actually really like it. So it'll be loaded and then just straight into a body weight, and reps are kept continuous. So otherwise I could just go on, not forever, of course, but you could just extend the set on and on and on and on. So I'll just make sure that they stay continuous and stay strict with that. So literally don't allow myself to pause at the top. And that's a good way of standardizing it as well. So I'll do that and then drop to body weight, because it's generally, I've quite liked that when we've done that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then I think that was everything for the session. You said you finish up with a bit of arms, maybe a side delt movement.
That's what we've been doing, haven't we? At the end of each session, like at the end of legs, we do calves and abs, and we'll usually do a bicep movement and a side delt movement. And then at the end of the upper sessions, we do a bicep and a tricep, bit more on the push day, don't we? We don't do calves and abs after the upper. So it's like calves and abs frequency twice a week, biceps 4 times a week, triceps 3 times a week, side delts 4 times a week. That's right.
I think side delts varies. It's very auto-regulated.
Yeah, exactly.
All of it. See how our shoulders feel.
Yeah, I think it's the same for all the smaller body parts, isn't it? Towards the end of the session, when we're not. And again, this is something I say to my clients. When they've like, oh mate, I might not have time for this bit of the session. I always say, like, do your first 5 movements regardless. Yeah. Like if you for whatever reason do not have time or family commitments or whatever, if you miss here and there the last 2-3 movements, for the most of the time it's arms, calves, abs. Like if you miss those once in a while, it's not the end of the world. Obviously I wouldn't want people neglecting them completely, but for us, like if we feel absolutely trashed, we don't go, oh mate, let's do side delts, let's do abs. We're like, right, let's leave it there because we're trashed. And that actually benefits us, doesn't it, in terms of the other sessions. Whereas again, a year ago, 2 years ago, we'd have been like, no, we've got to do this, we've got to do that, when it was actually taken away from the bigger movements and the overall progress.
Yeah, and the movements that we're doing, it's literally like for biceps, it's like one working set, but with like an intensifier. So yesterday it was our lower session, my leg pull session, and we literally completed 15 kilo back against wall curl to failure, obviously, and then drop setted it to 8 kilos, and again just went to failure. So plus partials. So it's not like we're doing a whole 3 exercises and trying to be really meticulous. We're just picking an exercise towards the end. We're doing an intensifier. Likewise for laterals, we're pretty much either doing a drop set, rest pause set, whatever it's going to be. It's just pretty simple towards the end, just to get a bit of blood in there. We're not trying to absolutely like pulverize the muscle and think that it's going to be like, we're not trying to get so much out of it, but we're just getting a bit of blood there. And it's pretty simple, and we're getting away with it. If we imagine the amount of volume we're doing on a weekly fashion, probably isn't much more than what we were doing if we'd be doing like a pull push lower or whatever it is. It's quite simple, and then we can just go from there.
I think a good way to look at it is almost like, it sounds very bro sciencey, but it's almost like we're literally just trying to get blood in the muscle. Like we're just trying to create as much sort of stimulus and blood flow and more sort of metabolic stress with very minimal fatigue. And because they are such small body parts, we're not creating a lot of fatigue. So I think, you can easily warrant training those smaller body parts 3-4 times a week. Because it doesn't batter you. We don't finish like a bicep movement and think, oh my God, like my joints. Like generally we're like, yeah, I've got a good pump. That's it, session done. So I think that's kind of how I see it, is that, it's not the same. For example, when you look at your overall volume of a session, the one set that I'm doing on the hack isn't the same as the one set that I'm doing on biceps. So some people might be like, oh, you've got this many sets in that session. It's like, yeah, but all sets don't equate to the same level of fatigue. So, when people say to me, mate, am I doing too many sets? I do 20 sets in this session. I'm like, well, I don't know what those sets look like. I don't know how you train. I don't know how strong you are. I don't know what you're doing. So again, that's something to comment on, is that not all sets are going to be the same and equate to the same sort of level of fatigue that you're going to accumulate. But yeah, you go through yours then, mate, because obviously that's my leg session. We won't even be talking when we train because you'll be on the side of the gym.
Yeah, I know. I'll be coming over to ask for a video or for a spot. That's pretty much going to be it. And then I'll get Cuba stealing my machine like he did last time. I think it was on the is it the extreme row or it's the prime row, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he decided to steal it, and I said to him, mate, whack those plates back on. I think I did him by about half a plate, which is I don't know. We'll carry on. We'll move on. But no. So basically, I do a single arm pull down. This is what I'm currently doing, and I'll just try and transition it. I don't really want to make drastic changes, if I'm honest. So a single arm pull down on this session. I just do one total working set, 2 count in the short. Lats fresh at this point, so it makes sense to emphasize the short. I then go in with a chest supported row, which will definitely be getting switched out just from the practicality standpoint. I actually really enjoy the movement. I've worked it up to 160 plus kilos. I think it was 160 actually, so it wasn't plus, but it was 160 for a very, very mediocre set of 5. I probably shouldn't have gone for it, but it was my last time doing it, so I thought I'll go for it, and it didn't completely humble me. So I reckon we'll probably put in some prime row. I'll have to have a think about where I want to be loading it. But if I'm honest, I think at this point, there's no real point where I'm thinking, let's load the short. And I think I'll probably just have it on the mid pin. Quite simple.
T-bar.
Yeah, I think potentially, but I probably quite like that on the other day, because the long-term projection for this session would be for me to implement a hip hinge in this particular slot of movements. So originally I was performing an RDL here, but I would definitely prefer to perform an RDL or some level of hip hinge, but my lower back and heart's feeling. On my other session, I'm doing a bent row, and I'm almost having that in as like a transition period to get a bit of load with a decent degree of hip flexion. Nothing fantastic, as Finn reminds me every single time I bent row. But in reality, just trying to get a decent amount of load.
It was an upright row.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I've been bent rowing, mate. I had it wrote down as a shrug originally.
I thought it was
yeah, I had it as a shrug, lost a bit of tightness, and was like, God, this feels all right. I've never done this movement before. So that's what it was. So basically, as mentioned, it'll probably be some level of machine row here, just to replicate what we can kind of get on a chest supported row. As mentioned, I think a chest supported T-bar could be on the cards, but that will most likely be going in on the Thursday session eventually. And then it will be some level. I probably will have the Finn, you're gonna have to remind me, is it the Nautilus pull down or is it the Atlantis pull down? I get confused. Yeah, Nautilus one.
Nautilus, yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably have that on. To be fair, we had it in, and I think it gets to a level where it starts to feel pretty poor. But just due to how it drops off, I think it'll be quite good to, I think we'll have it in for maybe 6 to 8 to 10 weeks probably until it feels pretty poor.
It's a really good machine, but I think in my sort of experience with what I was doing, I felt like I was almost trying to progress it too quickly, and I was almost neglecting that connection, which is generally, I feel like it's a really good machine to get the perfect line for your lats and keeping your hips back. And if anything, like we were doing that, but I just felt like it just wasn't feeling good because I was trying to rush progression. So yeah, as long as you don't do that, mate, it is a good piece to get.
Well, to be fair, I had the single arm variant in, and I didn't progress it for 4 weeks on the trot. It was like, I think it was like 76 kilos for like, I think 11 reps, and the 12th eluded me. I never got it. So that would be wicked. That's when we spoke on the last podcast, and it was performance goals. Finn didn't ask me, but it was 76 kilos for 12 on the single arm pull down. So that'll be there.
I just don't care.
No, and then after that, it'll be an upper back. It'll be an upper back emphasized row. So probably a rest pause, maybe a double rest pause. I've been having a double rest pause in on an upper back row, and I've been getting on quite well with it. And as frequently reminded, my upper back is absolutely horrendous. I've had 2 insults on my physique over the last probably year, which, if I'm honest, is quite good. And both of them are my rear delts. So upper back, rear delts, it just needs more work. So maybe even a quintuple rest pause on that eventually. I'm joking, definitely not a quintuple rest pause. Should we name names? It was okay. So yeah, we'll name names. So one was Isaac. He said, what's his Instagram handle? Do you know? It's like Isorf.
Josh Isaac Thacker.
Yeah, he messaged Finn. Didn't message me. Messaged Finn saying, "Great physique, needs more rear delts." Yeah, he messaged you saying, "Great physique, needs more rear delts." And if you're listening, Isaac, mate, why didn't you just message me?
Mate,
Yeah, you upset me, man. And then it was the other one was Tim Stewart. I think he said something about my rear delts being poor. Yeah, nobody knows. Like everybody thinks he's natty, so nobody really knows him. And then after that, it will be just probably most likely the regular ISO. So it'll be maybe 1 to 2 bicep movements. My bicep tendon on my left side is a little bit tight, so I think it most likely will just be 1 movement there, and then the regular probably a lateral. And then me skipping abs and definitely skipping calves at this point. I think I'll say the adductors come in. Therefore, I'm doing 3 lower body movements. Do I really need a calf movement? Probably not. So I'll let Finn do the calves on his own.
You'll get judged on your calves, mate.
Hmm?
You'll get judged on your calves.
I know. Yeah, but my calves aren't that bad when I'm lean, so I get away with it. They're not great. They're like a 4 out of 10, but you wouldn't look at me and say I need more calves. But I could definitely do with some calves.
You would about your rear delts.
But yeah, definitely would about my rear delts, as I've been reminded. I haven't been reminded this year, actually. So 2021, clearly my rear delts have come on a lot.
Right. So is that Monday done?
Monday done. Yeah.
Right.
So Tuesday, rest day. Pretty simple.
What do we do on that day?
Nothing. We both, me and Finn, just sit. Yeah. Get up.
Coffee.
Yeah. Finn takes a photo of his body weight on the scales, and then he just watches YouTube. He watches,
and then I go back to bed, and I'm like,
watches. He takes his photo. I take a photo of my screencast, say busy day, and it was actually the check-ins of the day before. And then I go back to bed. I watch football highlights. I don't really do anything. Yeah,
the whole check-ins
of the last month.
Busy Tuesday.
Busy Tuesday. I make up names for my clients, and I put on my story 148 gym programs I've got to make now.
The team's growing. Rocket emoji.
And then I'll put a swipe up if you're interested in coaching, and do a coaching slots available.
Love these spaces.
Love these spaces, yeah. So we'll go into, so like I said, Tuesday, fantastic day, productivity through the roof. We then head into Wednesday, absolutely mentally fatigued after the real hard 2 check-ins we have, because we make up that we have clients. So we go in on Wednesday, and it's probably the session where we actually pretty much do the same kind of things. Like this is the session where we can actually plan and base it off each other. And we haven't really spoken too much about this, so there might be a little bit of a controversy. So we'll go into it. So it's our push and arm session on Wednesday, and we're going to be doing this at Warehouse, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you go, mate.
So Evo.
No, I said you go.
Oh, I thought you said Evo. Okay, so we start off with a lateral, and there's only, if I'm not mistaken, unless the owners decided to spend some of our money because we haven't paused our membership because we couldn't. I'm actually going to get into that because it's disgraceful. They said that if you cancel it, you have to sign up to a waiting list when they reopen. And
don't slag them off. They don't like.
No, I'm not slagging them off. I'm just saying it's bad practice. So it's a bit. So we didn't cancel. So we've been paying them money, and hopefully they've got some new kit. So when it comes to the kit, what they had.
Apparently they've got more kit, haven't they?
Yeah. So when it comes to the kit, they only have 1 lateral raise machine, and it's just a seated. It's quite decent, if I'm honest. I quite like it. It's not fantastic. It's the problem with Warehouse, if you ever train there, and I could probably get into a fair few more problems, but we'll skip over. The problem with Warehouse is the kit there is either really, really good, or like to the point where I'm surprised nobody's got injured and they've had to throw the kit out. It's very inconsistent.
Yes. I'm not a massive fan of that lateral raise, but I also think that, again, in the lockdown, I've become a fan of no lateral raises apart from just dumbbell. Like the cable that we were using just ruined my joints. I think, again, with a lateral raise, it's very easy to worry about the load too much when you're doing a machine lateral and just start chucking it around. And I know you say you connect really well with your side delt, so you can sort of get away with that, which is fine. But for me, when I start, loading up a heavy lateral machine, like my shoulder just hurts. Like it just hurts my joint internally. I don't feel like I'm getting enough out of my side delt. And I feel like my side delts have grown a decent amount recently from just dumbbell laterals. And I feel like I connect a lot better with them. So I'll probably keep that in, mate. Obviously, you can jump on the seated, the machine, but I'll probably keep in a dumbbell for now. I might look at adding the machine in, but with how well I've been getting on with just a normal dumbbell, I'll probably keep that in.
Yeah. Well, I'll probably do a single arm version of the machine. Probably one set, first set, like 10 to 15, which usually turns out to be we always say 10 to 15, and then it ends up being like an 8 to 12 because you start to chase a bit of load, which is never great with side delts. And then the second set, usually like a 12 to 15, sometimes higher, but we usually put an intensifier. So we usually have a rest pause on there. And usually I wouldn't want to put a rest pause like that early on into a session, but it doesn't really impact any pressing stability. Like side delts afterwards, they might feel trash, but within 5 minutes, by the time you've even got to your third warm-up set on a main press, you're not thinking, oh, my side delts are battered, because it's just a singular rest pause and you're fresh at that point. So like I said, we'll both have a rest pause in, most likely on the second set, and then we go into our push sessions. Are pretty simple when it comes to how we program them. It's usually 2 to 3 main presses, all trying to hit different lines of force, should we say, so all trying to tick off different parts of like the musculature that we're trying to involve. So the first one I think we'll probably go for, and it's because we've been getting really, really good results off it from a progression standpoint, and it's not the best movement for hypertrophy. It will just be a flat bench. I think we'll probably both keep a flat barbell bench press in. Finn's been like raving about it pretty much. He's flat barbell bench press coaching at this stage, so he's had it in twice per week pretty much since February, and I think he's worked it up like 22 and a bit kilos from like a 3 repper now, which is ridiculous. So I'll pass it over to Finley and you can carry on.
I've just programmed it every day now for every client, every session, even if it's legs, just flat bench first. Yeah. But no, it's the first. With my shoulder, like probably a couple months back, I was like, I'll just try a flat bench. Because even
when we were in,
go on.
Oh, it was when we were in that in the facility. It was I remember it was you had a flat dumbbell in, and the dumbbells that we were training with were so big at this facility. You did a flat bench dumbbell Ultraflex. I think you got like the 52s or 54s up. And I remember saying to you, like, the higher the bench got in like the incline nature, the more Finn's shoulders started to get almost just screwed over. Like they just felt horrendous. So I remember saying, like, we both had a convo and we were like, just try a flat bench, and we did a dumbbell. And then obviously because the dumbbells were too big, we then had to train at mine. Trying to put load on the dumbbells that we had was probably it was a death warrant. So we, like, Finn put in the flat bench, and ever since, like, from a shoulder health perspective, like, Finn's always been a strong presser, and that sounds like I'm being really nice, so I'll take it back. But Finn's been a decent presser. Yeah, he's been a decent presser because he just presses through his triceps, and that's why his arms are wicked. And everything else is pretty poor. Yeah, nothing else. And this is probably the first time, I'd say, in the last year or so that you've actually managed to run a press consistently for more than like 6 weeks.
This has been the first time on a free weight movement where I've been like, shit, like, how am I doing it? You know what I mean? I think a lot of the time, like you say, I'll get a good run going on a movement, and then it's like, this has happened, or I'm losing tightness here, or this, or this, or this. But yeah, it's just been going really well. So no complaints on that. And like, you know, that saying sort of, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So I'm just going to keep that in for now. Again, yeah, it might not be the most optimal choice when it comes to hypertrophy, but obviously, like that conversation that we had, mate, where we were saying that's almost irrelevant because I'm moving loads that I've never moved before. It's resulting in a cross transference of other movements progressing a lot more, and therefore my physique progressing a lot more. So although, yes, the flat bench might not be the optimal choice in terms of how it's helping me progress everything else and what I'm getting out of it right now, it actually is the optimal choice because it's not injuring me. It's progressing every week and I'm enjoying it a lot. You know, I'm going into each session thinking, right, I'm going to go in and get this. And I don't have, you don't get that a lot on pressing, you know, especially like however many weeks into the movement. Yeah, like when you've done a movement for months, you're not usually going in going, oh yeah, sick, I'm excited to do this and get this. But I've been like that, and I think that's part of the reason it's progressed as well. So we'll both have a flat bench then, and then what for the second press? What do you want to do for that?
Well, firstly, I'll actually say road to 4 plates is on for the flat bench. That's the performance goal, mate. That's what it is. 4 plate flat bench in the next month or so, 6 weeks, I'll say. Second press, if we think about it, we've done a flat press. So we've gone from like a horizontal focus press. Now we're trying to go for more of a vertically inclined press. Now we've got to understand that again, Finn shoulder's probably not going to be ideal. We've had a reverse band high incline in, and to be fair, it's felt really like I really got on very well with it. It's something that it's enjoyable to do because at the bottom it's not that heavy. The load gets taken off, and to be fair, our banding technique isn't ideal. We could have probably banded it a bit better, but current circumstances, we have the band. Yeah, we have the band wrapped around 4 nails that we've put into a block of wood that's above us, that if it pulls down, we're dead. So it's definitely worth the risk. So I'm not too sure when it comes to warehouse, when it comes to the shoulder press kit, but I know they have that. Is it the Nautilus shoulder press that you said you had like 40 kilos onto the stack as well?
Light.
Yeah,
it's too light. I think we do the Smith.
Yeah, so like a Smith high incline, I'd probably say, and then potentially a reverse band. But in reality, I think we'd probably be fine just doing a regular high incline Smith.
Yeah,
it's the hammer strength.
We can start off with that. And then if we feel like there'd be any warrant to do the reverse band, then we can. But I don't think it's necessarily needed. I think it helped, obviously, with the free weight, generally with my sort of shoulder and keeping it just more stable at the bottom of the movement. But I don't think that'll be too much of an issue, obviously, with the Smith stabilising it anyway.
Yeah, no, I think that's we're not using the band to be immaculate with from like a profile perspective. We're literally using the band just so we're not having to try and stabilise after doing 140 plus kilos on a flat press, 120, 130, 140 kilos on a high incline afterwards. It's absolutely horrible to try and stabilise it above your head, pretty much. So like I said, I think the Smith machine takes out any stability issues. We'll probably have this in as a high incline. Again, 2 working sets, likewise with the flat bench. Finn had a higher rep set, but we won't go into too much detail with the flat press. And he was on, if I'm not mistaken, 100 kilos. And he was like, we'll run this up to a 20. First rotation, 10, I think, or 12. Second rotation, 14. 11, then second rotation 13, 14, 12, 13, 14, third rotation 15, 10th rotation 15 reps, 7 weeks of maintenance. So I think he's finally swapped it out. And now he's doing just the 2 straight sets. So 1 heavier loading set on the flat bench. We both have, I got a 4 repper. Finn got a 3 repper. If I'm not mistaken, I think you got 4 repper the other day, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a slightly lower rep range.
I've been doing 3s for the last 5-6 weeks.
Yeah.
Or 5-6 rotations, which is like 3 weeks, because it's and I have it twice a week. I won't be doing any more, but I do it at the minute.
And then, like I said, back off set, pretty simple, like a 10 to 12, sometimes a little bit less. It's not really a prescribed. We go for a heavier set that's in like a 3 to 6 rep range or a 7 rep range until it's comfortable. But if I'm honest, like both of us, we've kind of just been getting to a load, and then we've just been up in the load and thinking, can we get away with it? Can we get away with it? And form stayed pretty much consistent. It's deteriorated slightly on an execution standpoint as we really push the boundaries of strength. So I think a reset was on the cards of Finn. I haven't hit that point yet with a flat bench, but I know I did with the incline, and it resulted in a few niggles. And then when we got into the second press now, it's just 2 working sets. So we'll see pretty much the pressing format is pretty similar. It's 2 working sets, 1 heavier loading set. The second movement's not going to be a 3 repper, that's for sure. It'll probably be like a 5 rep minimum, but we're not in a position where if a 4 rep is there, we're not going to take it. Like, if we feel good, a 4 repper can still be beneficial because it'll push up the back offset. If you've handled 5 kilos extra and you're pressing 130 kilos to 125, it's going to correlate far better.
I thought you didn't get a hypertrophic response if it wasn't 5 to 30 reps.
Yeah, if it's 4.8 reps and you get the last 0.2 assisted, 0 stimulus.
Likewise, if it's 31, 0 stimulus.
Yeah, so literally, you just do a 30th rep and then go for an eccentric. That eccentric literally twists, and you're now an endurance athlete. And that's pretty much the main aspiration.
The marathon, as soon as you get off the bench, it's like, what? How did I get here?
Yeah.
Right. So
then the third press.
Go on.
Yeah.
I'm not doing.
I was going to say. Yeah, Finn doesn't perform a third press, so he has it's a push and arm session for Finn, but he has 1 pull. I
call it push dominant upper and pull dominant upper. For you, it's push and arms.
Yeah. So for push and arms, I then have a tricep compound. Now this is kind of pretty much depend on what kit they have available. And again, a few niggles that I've picked up over the last few weeks, which is definitely not that nice. So I had in a close grip press up, which is good because at this stage, it almost takes away any stability issues because it's literally just you pressing against the floor. But then at the same time, getting as much load as you need to actually perform a set on this, it's a ball ache. So I'm glad I'll never have to perform that
Press up's
movement
great.
again.
Like we were saying, the press up as a movement at home is perfect because it's the best sort of stabilization exercise you can do. Really,
it's most similar to a machine.
For a
That's
press.
what, you know.
Exactly. But like you just said, then when you come to a certain level of strength, adding 20 kilos in a backpack, it's not really, unless you're doing 5-second eccentrics and 5-second pauses, it doesn't really cut it. So like for you, obviously, I think when I was doing it, I was doing like 70, 80 kilos. And obviously you're doing that now. It's like, it just doesn't, it doesn't work because it just slides down your back and then your arse is down, your hips are hitting the floor when you're trying to press. Like, so yeah, imagine keeping that in the gym.
Seeing people pull over, you're getting all the bumper plates on the gym, thinking you're going to go for like a hip hinge or something. You see you loading me up, putting all the load on my back. Oh, they get excited. I'm just putting a lot of load on Reece's back. People run over, they hear, they go, oh my God, I wouldn't want to see this. This gets exciting. Waited 4 months for this.
What are you doing?
No, so
you're doing a dip?
So it'll be... Yeah, so I tried a dip, a bin dip, shall we say, and I'm not from Liverpool, but I tried a bin dip, and it was fantastic. It felt nice. It felt really nice. Had a little pause in the bottom, had no pec issues or anything. So I definitely think a bin dip or, should we say, just a regular dip will most likely be in. I just performed one working set. With a few clients have I got on this where it's like a push and arm session. Usually I get them to either perform maybe 6 total working sets for push. So it'll be like 6 main movements, should we say. So 2 in the first, 2 in the second. And then potentially I might do one movement like with one set and then a 4th press with one set. But for the level of strength for my recovery capabilities, more specifically the latter, my recovery capabilities, after 4 sets and 2 main exercises, I'm not in a position where I want to be doing another 2 working sets. So I just do 1 total working set. It'll be a slightly higher rep range, probably like an 8 to 12. And as mentioned, it'll most likely be like a loaded dip. If there's a close grip press that doesn't feel too niggly, I might get away with that. But again, we probably have to reassess what warehouse has got. If it's got new kit, maybe. The Atlantis flat press, close grip press, best 3rd main movement in the game, in my opinion. But unfortunately, we don't know anywhere that has there. So yeah, and I'm not going to move. I'm not going to drive to get a 3rd movement of a tricep compound in. So that'll be just for that. I'll do the main first 2 presses at warehouse. So I'll hop in the car. Yeah, drive to Leeds because Ultraflex Leeds is the only place I know where it is, and I'll hop on that, come back, and then finish off with some ISOs, and then go home, and pretty much that'll be the session. So that's the end.
As our sessions are.
Yeah, it would be actually. It probably we'd be done at a similar time.
Yeah.
So basically, that'll be the end of my main compounds. Finn will now go into his press, so he'll do 1 main press, just 2 working sets, I'm guessing.
Pull, yeah. So I'll do 2 presses, then a pull. So I'll go into a bent over row. Again, that's been working pretty well. I think what I'll do is I'll have the bent row on this session, and then on the other session I'll have, because we're in a better gym, I'll utilize the machines. So at the minute I've been having the bent row on the Saturday, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the bent row on this session. If anything as well, after the pressing, my scapula and my upper back might be a little bit fatigued, which if anything will probably benefit me because I won't be chucking load around on the bent row and it'll be a little bit stricter and I won't get done by the form police again. So I'll keep the bent row in, and it's load. At the minute it's feeling really good. It's feeling loads better, and I think part of that is because I'm not doing a hinge at the minute, which is actually again really helping with my back issues. So I'll do a bent over row. I'll obviously come on to the Saturday session, but the reason I'm not doing the bent row on the Saturday is because there's more equipment available on the Saturday. So then we go into a fly.
Yes. So I do 2 working sets on this fly. It's quite interesting because I do on the other session, on the other push and arm session, I just do 1 total set with a rest pause. But with this, I do a slightly heavier set and then just a regular back off set. So 2 working sets of a pec fly. I'd have to have a look. Have they got a decent fly machine there? I know you've been upper there. I haven't.
Yeah, it's not great. I'd just do it on the cables, mate.
Yeah, we'll probably do like a cuffed costal or whatever.
Just do the handle costal that we've been doing.
Okay,
I
yeah,
think it's been really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon we'll just do that. Just do a D-handle costal fly, and I'll just do my normal 1 set rest pause if you do your 2 sets.
Yeah.
And then it's arms then, isn't it? We have quite a bit of arms in this session.
Yeah, so it's almost like this session feels like 2 sessions because we get done with like the main compounds and then obviously the fly ISO or whatever. And then we go in and we're like, right, now we've got 2 tricep and 2 bicep movements. And that doesn't sound like a lot because you imagine, well, 4 exercises, it's not, but we do a fair few intensifiers. We do single arm work to begin on both, if I'm not mistaken, the first bicep and first tricep movement. Yeah. And then we have like an intensifier to finish on the second and on the second bicep and tricep movement. So we had in if I'm not mistaken, it was a single arm push down to on the triceps, and we also had a single arm. We kind of swapped this around a bit, but was it a single arm like leaning hammer curl?
Yeah. So at the minute that we do just normal dumbbell, single arm dumbbell, leaning, supinated grip, and then we do the push down. So that's the first movement, and then we do the basically like a rope hammer curl, but we have the cuffs on. And we do a muscle round on that. And then on the second tricep movement, we do like an overhead rope extension, but again with the cuffs. And we do that as a drop set, don't we? So it is only 3 sets on each, but because one of them's a muscle round and the other one's a drop set, it does feel like more. Yeah. And then we finish off with side delts again.
So pretty much the thought process at the start is just to get a single arm movement in, get as much, not as much load, but not focusing on just.
Yeah, I really like
it. But it is. Yeah, like it's literally a sense of trying to think, right, let's get as much load. So the first set is usually a fair bit heavier. We'll probably have like a 5 to 9 rep range, which for arm training is almost non-heard of. A lot of people prefer to keep the reps a bit higher, but we think, well, biceps, triceps are the same kind of, it's a muscle at the end of the day. So we're trying to get as much load in as possible. We'll then have a slightly higher rep set, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not too high. It's still probably like a 10 to 15, and it's pretty simple.
Sometimes we'll just get a slightly higher rep. Obviously, if we feel like, again, sometimes if I go into it and my wrist or my elbow feels a little bit off, I'll just do a slightly higher rep range. But that's again something that people will often ask is like, oh, should I focus on mind muscle connection when it comes to arms, or should I focus on progressive overload? And my answer is always just both. Like, why would you just focus on one? Like, it's the same with anything. Don't get me wrong, I'm not expecting people to feel an RDL massively in the hamstrings, but still, if you're just feeling your back hurts the whole way through an RDL, like, is that really a good thing? No. Like, so I've had that a few times recently with clients saying, should I focus on progressive overload as much on arms? And I say, yes, but if you start to feel like you're swinging it and you're not connecting with the arms at all, then reset it. Because we'll do that every time we need to reset something. We just reset it, because otherwise you just keep getting worse and worse with your form, and then you get to the point where you're just creating loads of fatigue for very little stimulus because we're trying to do too much weight.
Yeah, no, agreed. And then do you want to touch on the intensifiers to finish, and then that will pretty much wrap up the session?
What, on the arms or on the side delts?
Nah, so if you think, you mentioned the muscle round. So we have the muscle round we basically have a rope curl, but we don't have a rope. So it's not a rope curl, but we want to replicate a rope. So we have cuffs. Yeah. So basically, the guy that we bought it off didn't give us the rope, and it said pieces involved or pieces in the box. It had like an equipment list, and clearly Big Richard decided he's not giving us the rope. So
I wonder if he's listening.
Yeah, if you're listening, Rich, we actually have your address. So yeah, we're coming to get the rope, mate, that's for sure. But no, so we don't have the rope. So we've tried to replicate the rope through a daisy chain and some cuffs. We've got our hands in like a neutral grip. So it basically is what you'd want from a regular kind of like a rope curl. And we have a 6x6 muscle round. The thought process on this is literally, I usually would say to people to take up the total amount of reps. So if we were to do 6x6, so 36 reps, if you half that, that's usually the load that I would say. If you could complete one working set in that maybe 15 rep range, around maybe 15 to 20. With how we have our times, because Finn goes then I go, it usually equates to a little bit more than maybe like the 10 to 15 seconds that I think me and Finn would probably prescribe for a client. So therefore we probably maybe are more suited to maybe like a 10 or a 12 rep range. And we literally do 6 reps, Finn goes 6 reps, I go 6 reps until the whole 6 rounds are completed. And then in the powerlifting terms, we have an AMRAP to finish. So we go for as many reps as possible.
That's again something to note that we always say that we tell our clients is on the last round of a muscle round, don't just stop because you've got 6. Like, still take it till you've got nothing left. And even with partials and a forced rep, if you can,
Yeah.
often people will be like, oh, I did 6x6, but they're still training at 60% of what they should have been, or loading it with 60% of what they should have been. So they're still miles off failure. So just because you've done 36 reps and you've got a bit of a pump, you could have been doing it with a lot more load and getting a lot more out of it. So always take that final round all the way to failure, especially when it's on arms, such a small body part. You're not going to create loads of fatigue because of that.
Yeah. What I usually say is just overshoot slightly, especially at the start. Just overshoot. Go a tiny bit heavier than what you'd usually anticipate. And if you can't complete the 6x6, then you can work towards it. So if you get complete 5 rounds of 6 and on the final round you only get 1 rep, you're like, well, right, next time I only got the X amount of reps. I need to now get 33, 34, 35 total reps. And then you can work it up.
Another way of progressive overload, isn't it? It's just a different way. You're not necessarily thinking, oh, I have to go heavier. You can always just, like you say, overshoot it and then work the reps up. I've had that loads with clients in the lockdown is, right, you're going to do a cluster set here. We're going to start off with 5x4. I've completed it. Okay, 6x4 next week. Okay, 7x4. Okay, well, let's go.
Yeah, I've done the exact same.
8x4, and I maybe go, right, let's go 6x5 now. And as long as the total keeps increasing, then it's just another form of overloading it.
Yeah. I've got a few clients, Tony more specifically, on a tricep extension towards the end. Mate, horrendous how many reps she was doing. I'm not going to say because it was like, I think it was in the hundreds total. It was where she only had access to like a band or so. And I was just like, right, we'll just keep adding 2 reps a week. And I think through the entirety of the lockdown, so if we imagine like 14, 15 weeks of home training, 2 reps every time. So it's silly, like how much we got her on. And she'd complain in every single check-in to me. But like I said, we'll carry on. And then we finish off pretty much.
Massive arms.
Yeah, she's got huge arms. She looks ridiculous. But no, so we're going into now. We have the lateral to finish. So usually at this stage, both me and Finn mentally are absolutely destroyed. We're not really thinking oh, let's get the best and most effective lateral. We usually just perform like a dumbbell leaning against a wall, or a dual arm dumbbell lateral with a drop set, some level of just to get a bit more blood. We actually have the lateral now, and this is something that I think from a programming standpoint, I know I've implemented with my clients as well. And we used to always have the laterals prior to the arm movements. And yes, you could argue, well, we have the lateral at the start, but because we're doing an intensifier, we might do a double rest pause. We're doing a delt complex at one point. We noticed that if we were doing them prior to the arm movements, I just feel like from a stability standpoint, almost throws off what you're trying to get. So we've actually had them now towards the latter end of the session.
Burning, weren't they? Like, hold the dumbbell and stabilize it. Like, our shoulders were just burning. Very similar. Like, I've adapted a sort of a approach with programming rear delts and side delts. I program them far apart because I find that myself and clients have said, like, I can't get the most out of the second movement because it just feels like my rear delts are firing up or my side delts are firing up. So I'll always put, like, if, for example, on like a session where you'd have both in the same, I'll put the rear delts before arms and then the side delt, because otherwise I feel like you just can't get much out of it. And the first one takes over, really.
Yeah, I agree. So that's pretty much, if I'm not mistaken,
that's that section.
That's that session. Now we'll head into the Thursday session, which is, if I'm honest, I'll probably skim over this one. I'll start off because there's not really too much for me to cover. Like, it will be very, very similar to my first leg pull session. It will be an adductor, it'll be a ham curl, and there'll be probably a rep range variance or a different machine. Obviously, it will be because it'll be at warehouse. So it'll be the Life Fitness hamstring curl, which is probably the best Life Fitness hamstring curl I've used. I quite like the one at warehouse. It's not fantastic, but it's decent. And then there's 2 leg extensions. I'll probably ban this just for a bit of variance as well, and then I'll tax the shorten, probably do like a double drop set. That's what I was doing. I have been doing currently just with the minimal leg volume. And then the only bit of variance in between this, I'll be taking out the bent over row. We'll be putting in probably a chest supported T-bar. I have a think because I know there's the Watson T-bar is pretty poor. So I think a few changes for that. And it'll just be the regular. It'll be like probably a dual arm chest supported neutral pull down to begin, emphasis in the short. There'll probably be another vertically inclined pull down. later on throughout the session with a hold and lengthened, and then probably a shrug. I did a shrug yesterday, double rest pause, and my traps are absolutely ruined. Haven't grown, still have shit traps, but hey ho, they feel like they've done work. So clearly it must be the first time I've actually connected well with a muscle. So that's pretty much that. And as I said, there's not really too much for me to cover because it's pretty poor. But this session for me in 2-3 weeks will be pretty much what Finn's going to rattle off now, unless I completely just disagree with him.
Right, so I'll do adductor again to start, but I will see how this adductor is with my adductor, because obviously before it was niggling it, wasn't it? Yeah. Then I will do the live fitness seated ham, but I do think at some point I will have a lying hamstring curl in either of the days, just because I feel like it's warranted. But the reason that I'm not doing it right now is because I've been only doing that for so long. So I've only had prone ham curling for the last 4 months. So I reckon for now, for this meso, generally I'll have 2 seated variations in, and then I will probably do the prone prime at Rotherham, I reckon. Yeah. Just because I do think I've probably neglected in the past. I've neglected a prone ham curl. I've always done seated ham, and from a stability standpoint, I do think it's a better movement. I think you can generally get more load on it, and you can probably get more out of it in terms of the hamstrings. But also then you've got the point that your hip angle is different when it comes to doing a prone. And obviously that's going to slightly affect how your hamstrings are contracting and how you're generally hitting them and where you're hitting. So I think I will benefit from actually having a prone ham curl where my hips are in an extended position rather than a flex position. So for now, I'll keep them seated, but at some point I'll do a prone. I don't know whether you're going to do the same as that or not.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it will depend. Yeah, I think it will depend on the projection for when I can replicate the same session as you will be doing. So I think when that probably occurs, it will probably be, I'd like to say, as mentioned, probably a few weeks from now. And then I think for the next meso, as we make a few tweaks, I reckon a hamstring, like a prone ham, would be good to put in potential on the Monday session, and then have this as the seated ham day or whatever. Well, I know there's a lying ham, but I don't think it's too great at warehouse.
No, it's not great. That's why I'd do it at Rotherham.
Yeah.
Then I will do the pendulum. Do you reckon should I leg press before the pendulum?
We did well with that. I quite like the rationale of one leg press with a lot of load, and then going in with a pendulum and maybe a pause on one of the reps or one of the sets, should we say, or just 2 straight sets. I like the leg press as a main movement on one of the lower sessions to begin.
But it's a pivot leg press.
Yeah. And the other leg presses are pretty poor there, if I'm honest. There's not, the one outside is okay, but you used it and it's not great. And then the hammer, no, not hammer strength, the Watson, is it the Watson, just poor, it just didn't feel great. Really, it just felt, the line of it felt like it was falling underneath you at times. The sled wasn't proper. We used to have to get, Finn would go to, there's a cage where there's a practical kind of cage, isn't there, where they have loads of bits of equipment for one-to-one sessions and classes, and we'd have to sneak into the cage and steal a booster seat so we could actually properly get ourselves in the right position. So it'll be an interesting one.
I'll do the pivot leg press then first, I reckon.
Yeah.
I did like that when we had that rotation, throughout prep where I was doing the leg press before pendulum. So I'll do that, and then I'll probably do 1 set there, and then I'll do 2 sets on the pendulum with probably, unsure whether I'll do a paused on the first or the second set. Because I like the concept of doing the paused on the first set, because you can use more load with that pause because you're a bit fresher. But then it kind of makes a bit more sense to do it on the second set when we're a little bit more fatigued and we can make a bit more sort of use of the length and range. Yeah. So, I'll play around with that, and I'll probably just see which feels best. Or I might just do 1 set. I'll see how my recovery is, because I think at the minute, I've kind of been auto-regulating my leg volume. When my knees don't feel great at all, I've just been doing 1 set on each, and it's been, then I've felt recovered and I've been sound to move on to the next session. I've felt better. So I will just auto-regulate that. And then I'll do another single leg. I'll probably do a walking lunge in this session, because I've wanted to have one in for a while, and they've got that long strip to do it on. So I'll probably do that.
Yeah. The only issue is there's always PTs there with clients doing like medicine ball throws against the wall and stuff like that. So I don't know, probably not the best scenery to be looking forward and seeing them, the people in front of you throwing medicine balls. But hey ho, warehouse summed up.
Yeah, so I'll do that. I'll do the walking lunge, and then after that, again, it'll be very similar to the other leg session. Probably calves, abs, bicep, side delt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simple. Yeah, pretty simple. The
And
lower sessions don't require too much in the sense of like, it's very, very similar. Did you mention, I'm not too sure if you did, are you doing the leg extension after the walking lunge? I think on this session you don't do the leg extension prior. You said you want to do it after, or are you doing it prior?
no, I'm still doing it prior, mate. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not too sure if you actually mentioned it prior.
Did I say? I think I said Nautilus leg extension.
Okay. You're going to band it as well with me, or are you going to do it with...
Yeah, I'll band the first set.
Yeah, makes sense.
It felt really good actually when we used to do that, didn't it?
Yeah. We used to have it as a band, and then with a double drop set towards the latter end with no band into the stretch.
Right.
Oh, that was brutal.
It was good, but even that, I feel like that was just accumulating so much fatigue. I wasn't progressing my big lift as much as I probably should have been at that time, I don't think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that'll be that session. In terms of like the biceps and the triceps and the delts and how we choose what to do you want to go through that or do you want me to?
Yeah, I'll go through. So we have a bit of variance. Like we played around with a lot of different movements. We've probably rinsed, I would say, every single bicep movement during this lockdown for what we can fathom up. I think the only one we haven't done a spider curl. And I don't think you ever will see us do a spider curl. So, like I said, probably not going to do a spider curl, as mentioned again. But yeah, we've rinsed through pretty much every single movement. We usually will pick towards the latter end, as mentioned. There's not really too much thought process. It's just one working set with usually an intensifier, whether that's going to be a drop set, which again is something that I don't think we've ever really utilized before prior to this lockdown. It's either a drop set, a rest pause set.
I like drop sets and you hated on them.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't a fan, but I think from like a metabolite standpoint, they're not bad, and it's quite easy because you can just track how many reps you get if you do a consistent drop every single time. So if you're, for example, on let's say a lateral raise machine, we don't actually have a drop set on it. We won't probably do a drop set on like a lateral raise machine. But if you were to always go on 62 kilos and you got 12 reps, and then you go to 42 or whatever, or 46, whatever it's going to be, if you were to imagine to drop that and then you log how many reps, it's quite easy just to track progression, and usually you can accumulate more effective reps through the drop set nature. So like I said, that'll be probably the thought process for the lateral movement. It will most likely we did a machine, so it'll probably be a dual arm machine lateral raise that we do. We might do a dumbbell or a cable, but I think it will probably just depend on how our shoulders feel towards the end of the session. And then when it comes to the arm movement, so we only really do one, so we just do a bicep movement on the session if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And again, because it's on the Thursday session, this is a quite touch and go, because we have the push and arm session prior, or for Finn the upper push with arms towards the end. It's very intermittent on how our arms feel. Sometimes we can do the push and arm session next day, feel like we haven't even trained them, and then other times bicep tendons ridiculously tight, everything just feels a bit off. And again, we'll probably just go for a bit of variance. So I think if I'm not mistaken, what we've been currently doing, I think we had a back against wall drop set curl. So we've just taken out any potential cheating that we're going to do through like any upper body movement and momentum. But I know Finn didn't get on too well with that. And to be fair, the walls warehouse, as mentioned, balls thrown against them, we wouldn't be able to do a back against wall curl, that's for sure.
Bouncing off it.
Yeah. You'd see a ball fly above your head and you'd be thinking, oh, that's going to come out and hit me.
I think, like, when it comes to arm training, when it comes to any form of training, obviously, like I was saying before, like, all you need to focus on is the movement pattern. So, are you performing elbow flexion? Yes. Are you performing supination of the wrist? Yes. Are you performing shoulder flexion? Yes, if we do like a preach curl. So then I would say, are you performing those three and also are you doing like a neutral grip movement for a little bit more sort of the, let's say the bicep brachii, almost to fill in that gap between the bicep and the tricep from the side. Yeah. And then that's it sorted. So like you can look at then angles, you could do one with the humerus slightly behind the body and potentially be getting more out of the bicep in its length and range and things like that. But like you had that question on Instagram, you don't need to overthink that. Just hit the biceps from those different grips and take them to failure. They're going to grow. I don't think it needs too much focus on you must do this movement, you must do this movement. This movement will be better at this time. Like, you're just doing a bicep curl. Just feel it, get stronger at it. They'll grow. Yeah.
Pretty simple. And then finally, I think that's everything for the Thursday session.
Yeah.
Heading into the Saturday session. So the longer-winded wait for the full upper. This is the session again. We're not 100%. We don't do exactly the same. This is like an upper pull for Finn. But for me, it's again pretty simple from an upper standpoint. So no surprise. First movement, a lateral raise. Pretty much seems to be just lateral raises here, there, and everywhere. So something to get the delt fully short start. I would say minimal amount of fatigue, but in reality, like, medial delt's not really going to get too much fatigue. It's just a sense of potential psychological fatigue from being deeper into the session. So we have something to get the delt nice and short to begin. I have two main presses. I have these prior to the pulls, just from a stability standpoint. If you're going to do pulls prior, I mean, there could be a thought process, but I always find if you're going to absolutely tax any posterior, trying to stabilize a free weight press afterwards, something that's just probably not going to be your best bet. Where with Finn, he only has one main press, and believe it or not, it was flat barbell bench press during the entirety of the lockdown. So we'll be swapping this out. We're going to be at UFB is it Ultimate Fitness? I think it's Ultimate Fitness, isn't it? Yeah. So we'll have to have a look at some of the kit, because we could potentially have been lied to off what they've actually got when it comes to kit, because we based it off one person's assumptions of the new kit they've got. But I've checked their Instagram out, and there's no recollection of any of this new kit bar, like one move, one machine. So we'll see. That's for sure.
It's still a good gym regardless. It's not, it's not going to be a bad session at all. We'll still be able to make the most out of that session, mate, even if it's not got all of the potential kit. But yeah, I actually might do a machine lateral on this session, because I think it'll be a better machine lateral than the one at Warehouse.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they've got an Atlantis and a Cybex lateral there, I think.
Yeah, I think I've seen both. Yeah, and then it'll be, are you doing a flat press variant, or are you going to be doing a low incline? Or
this will be something that I decide when it comes to actually seeing in the gym and being in the gym, because, like you say, I'm not sure exactly everything that they've got, but it will be either a flat machine press or a mid to low incline machine dumbbell barbell Smith press. I wouldn't actually be opposed to doing like a mid incline barbell, to be honest, if my shoulder feels okay, or mid incline dumbbell. It's just a case of kicking the dumbbells up. When I'm only doing 42 kilos, it'll be all right.
So I'm never doing dumbbells again, ever. Never ever doing dumbbells again. Just not a fan.
I just think, because again, I've enjoyed a lot of the free weight movements. So I might stick to that. That will be something that I do decide when it comes to the session. I've got a bit more of an idea of what I'll do with the pulling movements. But even still, because we've not trained there recently, I've only trained there a couple of times. So if they've got a load more new kit, then obviously we'll program slightly differently. But for now, focusing on the movement pattern, it'll be a form of mid to low incline / flat form of press, whether it be machine, dumbbell, barbell, Smith, whatever it may be.
Yeah, basically what Finn's trying to say is, if there's a hammer strength flat press,
I will be doing
that is flying straight in. He's already made his decision. That's the first main movement.
If not, and if I don't really get on with any of the presses, I'll do the hammer strength flat press on the Warehouse day, and then I'll do a flat bench on that Saturday, because the hammer strength flat press was going very well before the lockdown.
Yeah, I think it was like 4 and a bit plates, wasn't it, or something? Yeah. It was quite good. So yeah, it'll be similar for me when it comes to pressing. I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's like an Atlantis. We got quoted all the Atlantis presses. So if there's an Atlantis shoulder press, that'll probably be the second main movement. And then I'd quite like to keep in like either a low incline Smith or a low to mid incline free weight barbell. It will depend. A few niggles. Yeah, I'd like that. I'd like pretty much like a mid to low incline. If there's a fixed version where you don't have to make it in a rack, but even so, like, making it in a rack would be far better than what we've been crafting currently in the shed. So we'll have that probably, and if possible, if it feels all right. Again, depends on kit. We'd have to go there, and then from the second movement, it will most likely likely, if it does have every single Atlantis press, it will probably be like an Atlantis shoulder press or a plate loader shoulder press. I think it would have to depend from that point. And then after that, Finn only does one press. I do two, and then we go into. I do two pulls afterwards. I think Finn, you do four, don't you? I think you do four, but it's only 6 total sets.
Yeah, it works out as 4 pulls, but I think it's 5 total sets. No, it's 6. Yeah. Sorry, it's 6. Yeah. So again, I'm not 100% set on exactly what I'll do, but it will be some form of row. So I think you were saying, they've got the prime extreme row. So it could be that. Probably would be that, because when I've done to be fair, the Watson T-bar that they've got there is actually really good. It's just made for massive people. Like I'd have to stand on 2 blocks to do it. And I'm not that small. I'm 6 foot if I stand up tall with big shoes on.
And his hair pushed up. Questionable.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
for
6
sure.
foot then, if I do all of that.
6. If he was single, he'd be 6'2" on Tinder. But as mentioned, only 5'10" in real life.
Doesn't matter though. It's still, even if you were 6'2", the Watson T-bar is still too big.
Well, I'm 6'4", 300 pounds if any girl asks. So 6'4", 310 pounds lean. So that's pretty much me. I'll be fine. I'll be fine for that.
So it'll be some form of row. And then it'll be a single arm dumbbell, because I've really been getting on with it, really enjoying it. And with the fact that I won't have to set up the dumbbell and the dumbbell be massive, that'll make it obviously even better of a movement. So that'll be my first two rows, and 2 sets on each of those. Then I will go into probably some form of like we did, like a dual arm iso row. So the first row is more so going to be sort of mid and upper back focused. The single arm dumbbell row is obviously lat dominant, and then this row will be more like a dual arm lat dominant movement. And then I will do some form of pull up / pull down. Again, obviously at the minute what I've been doing is just a pull up, which has actually been pretty sound. But last time I did it was a bit niggly on my shoulder, so it may change to a machine pull down, or it may stay as a pull up. Again, I'm not too picky in regards to exactly what I do, as long as I'm hitting the same movement patterns as what I have been doing, because so far training's been going well and recovery's been in a good spot, so I'm not changing things up drastically. So that's kind of how that'll look, mate. Very similar to obviously what we've done in the shed, just with slightly different pieces of kit.
Makes sense. And then, like I said, for me, clearly some technical difficulties. I was wanting to use the prime extreme row. Realised this is a push and arm session for me, so definitely not ideal, because I wanted to use that bit of kit. And we were speaking about it, and Finn was like, "Yeah, do it Saturday." Clearly thinking, okay, I can't use the prime extreme row, which is a bit sad. But as I said, probably 2-3 weeks from now, I'll probably transition onto a very similar approach to the split as Finn. So I should be okay. So it shouldn't be too upsetting. So I'll probably just do a tricep compound. If it does have all Atlantis presses, as mentioned multiple times, the Atlantis flat close grip press will probably be in. If not, maybe a close grip Smith I think could be in, but again, probably just a few shoulder issues. So I think I'll probably just leave this blank. It will be literally a tricep compound with whatever we can summon up and fathom on the day will probably be chosen. It will just be rinsed for probably the entirety until we go into either a 4th lockdown or whatever it's going to be when it comes to the gym plan. And then it will be the regular ISOs to finish. So I'll have a rest pause set. It will again depend if they have it might be a D handle on a cable. I think they have a Cybex Bravo. So if they have a Bravo, I reckon we'll probably just do either a cuffed or a D handle. I might do, if I can, due to again a few niggles, if I can do like a upper clav, so upper clavicular, aka pressing clavicularly, as someone said. So so basically I'm trying to fly just clavicularly, just fly with just my clavicles and nothing else. Just my clavicles are going to be basically activating. So my actual collarbones are going to be the ones basically initiating this movement.
The collarbone here.
Yeah, so just a lot of emphasis there on just that mid to inner collarbone, just fantastic. Really trying to bulk it out and just tone it up. Yeah, Reece Physique. That's going to be the new Instagram name when I start saying that.
Yeah.
So anyway, like I said, I'll have probably an upper calf fly, and most likely with a cuffed because I don't really like a D-hander. I don't think it feels too great on the contraction point. So yeah, probably a cuff fly, maybe add in like a stretch to finish. We had a stretch in after, I think, a rest pause at Ultraflex Rotherham for the one session we got before the gyms all closed and we went into a national lockdown. I thought that was quite good, but again, probably something that we'll think about. And then it will just be, for me, it will be a sense of, I don't actually perform 2 tricep movements. I just perform the single, so the 1 tricep movement, and I actually perform 2 bicep movements. So again, I think from a pressing standpoint, if I was to do loads of triceps, it's probably going to impact my pressing. And yes, it's all well and good saying, oh, like more tricep volume, but if it's going to be impacting my pressing, I'd much rather be able to press 5 kilos more the next session or 2.5 kilos more, instead of not being able to progress more because I'm doing loads of tricep volume. So it's just 1 tricep movement. We'll probably come to agreement. It'll most likely be something regular. I think did we have a dual push down? Like it was nothing special.
We had like a cuffed dual arm push down in, didn't we?
Yeah, so it'll be a rope push down potentially. And then when it comes to the 2 bicep movements, it will literally be a neutral grip and then a supinated grip, probably an intensifier on the second movement, loading sets on the first movement. I know that we had like a seated single arm that we've got on quite well with, and we've had that in over the past. So I think maybe just a dumbbell single arm, or almost like leaning into it slightly, holding with our non-working hand just to provide a bit more stability. And again, something just to get a bit of load onto the biceps, and then just pretty much get some blood in there on the second set. So there's not really too much thought process again when it comes to arms. And then, believe it or not, a lateral to finish. So that'll be the session for me. Finn, if you want to walk through the end of yours, it's going to stay pretty similar, isn't it?
Pretty much the same, mate. I will have a rear delt movement in. When you do your fly, I will do a rear delt fly instead. And then I will finish off with probably 1 bicep, 1 tricep, and side delts. I don't think I'll do 2 biceps in this session. But again, we'll see, depending on how I'm feeling recovery-wise. But generally, by the time this session's seems to be anyway, a little bit longer for me to get towards the end than it does for you. But it might be different when we get back in the gym. So yeah, we'll see with that. But yeah, I think that's everything covered really, mate, in terms of the sessions.
Saturday, Finn always trains well because he has his off-plan meal afterwards.
Absolutely. So I have loads of motivation. So motivated to train on Saturday.
Yeah, his motivation's just through the roof, and he comes in proper pumped up, and he's like, "Oh, I get my off-plan meal." Tells me exactly what he's having. He's already pre-booked it. He knows what
tonight all week. So
yeah, my food sensitivity at this point, I don't even flinch. You could put anything in front of me, and I'd be like, oh, you know, when you're having an off-plan meal pretty much every single day in the form of a cookie, it's just shocking at this stage.
You don't want it, man. Just obviously.
No, I don't. I woke up once, it was post-COVID, and I was just trying to plan how to fit my macros, and I was like, I just want a cookie, and then I just didn't want it on that day, and it's just led into a very inconsistent few weeks into prep. So if there's anybody still listening, I hope you know that we're kind of joking here, but in reality, like, I bet there'll be one person who hears this and they'll go, a cookie? No chance. No chance. No. So yeah, 1 cookie per day, 1 off-plan meal per day, should we say, or 1 additional supplementary meal.
You have 2 McDonald's milkshakes with your off-plan meal on a weekend.
I've 1.
You had 2.
It was because I was waking up the next morning lighter every single time.
Yeah.
So I was having a whole pizza and I was waking up lighter. And I will say, like, it's not even from a mental standpoint. It's just a sense of, like, we both have said, we don't need an off-plan meal. Like, it's probably been the only time I've really ever had it, and it's over just more of a. And I'm not going to try and exacerbate and say, oh, it's because I'm trying to work up my total weekly amount of calories. It's not really that at all. It's just it's a bit of variance. It's kind of, me and Finn probably do the exact same stuff on a day-to-day basis. And in reality, like, it's not where we need it from a psychological perspective. From a performance perspective, again, at this stage of a gaining phase, more specifically for me, not really much of a benefit. But then at the same time, like, it's probably quite nice. It's time that it sounds a bit sad, but I actually have it with my mum, Finn has it with his girlfriend. So, you know, maybe one day I'll be in the same position. But we'll see about that.
The social benefit.
Yeah.
That is my opinion. Like, I don't need an off-plan meal at all. Like, I don't feel like, oh, I really can't wait for this food or whatever. Like, don't get me wrong, after prep, yeah, like for the first month or 2 months, like, I would really, really enjoy having something that was, like, say, a pizza or a Five Guys or whatever. But now, like, like you say, you don't really care. It's just it's nice to be able to sit down with Shannon and enjoy, you know, a different bit of food. Like every other meal, we don't really eat together. Like because obviously all my meals are at different times to her, and we don't get that time to sit down like most couples might get every night. You know, I'm out training or we're eating different foods all the time anyway, because obviously she doesn't eat the same foods as me. So more so from that, you know, we can put on a program that we want to watch, like Drag Queens, and we can just enjoy like a meal. And I think as well, because of obviously because of prep, it almost makes me appreciate it more. I almost think, you know, why not enjoy it while I can? Because I'm not going to do that in prep. So I'll enjoy it while I can. And as well, we're not stupid. Like we don't make stupid choices. It's not like we're there having, you know, pizza and a Ben and Jerry's and then going and getting another dessert, or, you know, it's like for me, literally most of the time it's a burger where I'm getting like a load of decent quality beef and like chips on the side, or I'll get like a pizza. So it's never like a horrendous choice where our digestion goes to shit. Yours is already shit all the time anyway.
Yeah, mini cut needed. If I didn't have a competition prep, yeah. Meal one, toilet trip. Meal two, toilet trip. Intra workout, toilet trip. I decided just to do it in the gym. Finn doesn't really mind. Leg press, it was actually the other day.
We leg press every time, isn't it?
Yes, but no, in reality, to be fair, at this body weight, I thought my digestion would be far, far worse. I remember during the first lockdown, my steps per day were around 2,000 to 3,000 as an absolute maximum, because lockdown, we were training at mine. And I remember I think I was on like 5,000, I'd have to have a look. It was like mid to low 5,000 calories. So it's like either 5.2 or 5.4. And the food choices and sources they were not poor, but there was a lot of food and only like 5 meals per day. And my digestion was appalling. And it showed in my physique where I just didn't look too great. Where now, like, I'm 5 kilos up. I've definitely not got 5 kilos worth of extra fat, but that's not making me sound lean. I'm not lean at all, but I'm in a far better position to start a prep than when I was. And like my food's high. It's not as high as it has been. Like Finn's food isn't as high as it has been before. And it might get to that point, but there's no need to. Like, there's no need to rush. We both push food.
It won't for me. I can't imagine, because of lifestyle changes. Like when I was on 5,500 calories a day, I was doing 8 to 10 hours of PT, I was walking probably 15 to 20,000 steps most of the time. On a maybe a quieter day, it was like 10k was a low day. Whereas now it's like I'll pretty much get between 5 and 7, 8,000. And that's just walking to and from like the car and obviously around the gym while we're training. So I can't imagine, mate, that I'll get back up to over 5 for that. Maybe at the end of this scaling phase, you know, you never know, but I can't imagine I really will, because I just don't think I'll need to, because of the fact that I'm just not expending as many calories.
Yeah, well, I think it'd be quite a good one to go through on one of the further episodes of Once You're In podcast. I think that could be something that we could look to cover. I've
got questions as well, so we'll cover them in the next one.
What are they, any good ones? Do you want to do any immediate questions? It's later in, so
this podcast too long right now.
Yeah. Are there any good questions?
Listening? Yeah, there's some. Not really. If anyone's still listening, then thank you. We appreciate it. But no, there were some decent ones, but it's more so people just taking the piss. We'll do that in the next episode.
Yeah, that would be spot on. So that's pretty much it then. We've gone through all our sessions. If you have any questions regarding the session formats, we're not going to program for you, that's for sure. But we don't mind. Yeah, we don't mind either in a further podcast or replying to messages or voice notes or whatever.
We'll do Q&A and stuff.
Yeah, so like I said, send over any questions if you have any further questions regarding what we've discussed today. But that's pretty much everything. I seem to be doing the outros, but I did the intro this time, so I'll pass it over to Finn to lead us out.
Yeah, all I'd say on top of that is if there is anything specifically that people want us to cover in the podcast, if there's any guests you want us to get on, if there's any concepts you want us to cover here on the Caitlin Hill podcast, we can do that for you. But no, yeah, if there is anything that people do want to cover, and we will do that, we'll drop question boxes. In regards to frequency, mate, do you reckon we can do 2 a week, or is your workload too massive?
Oh, don't take the piss. No one's listening at this stage. I reckon it would depend. I think I could do, mate, the problem is on Tuesdays I have physio, don't I? And on Fridays, I could do for every Friday, but Sunday I could also do, but you're with Shannon Sunday, so I don't think we could do Sundays.
Sure. Let's say we'll do a minimum of 1 a week at least.
Yeah.
We'll aim for 2. and they'll probably come out sporadically. I'm not going to say we will post at this time, because we probably won't, and it'll end up being different times. So they'll come out sporadically, but we'll aim to do at least, there'll definitely be one a week, probably two, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, spot on.
Cool.
Yeah, all good.
Thanks to everyone.
Cheers, guys.
And we'll see you in the next one.